Well, I'm not used to speaking in a large group, so if I get nervous, well, I'm talking about my kid. If I tear up, I'm talking about my kid. So I was invited a few months ago to speak, and all for it, so excited. A couple weeks ago, I said, so send over your PowerPoint presentation. And I said, a what? Let's just say it's been decades since I've done a PowerPoint presentation, which kind of tells you my age, so we'll move on. I'm just a mom telling a story, really, about, a tragic yet fairy tale ending story. So it comes down to who? Evangelina, which we went by Nugget, Ina, or Evie. We had lots of nicknames in the hospital because several nurses could not pronounce her name. Dr. Cohn, her physician, stuck with Evie, and that's kind of been sticking with us ever since. But the main thing as to why you're here, why am I here? You're here, you want to be a doctor, you're a scientist, you want to further stem cell research, you want to learn more about stem cells, or it's just going to look really good on a resume at this point. Why am I here? I'm here because my daughter had a tragic diagnosis. I'm here because I have a commitment to Dr. Cohn, UCLA, CERM, Americans for Cures, and people like yourselves. Additionally, we all know that I'm not the only person that this is going to happen to. My daughter's not the only person that this happens to. Several children, several people, they die every day, and I don't want them to be maintained. I want them to be cured. So after speaking and being in several of your speeches, I could sit here and explain to you what ADA SCID is, but for the most part, I think you pretty much all know. It's no immune system, and no immune system equals no good. And additional to that, Evie suffered for a specific form of SCID, which was ADA SCID. So her SCID is 1 into about 200 to 100 to 1 million people that would be diagnosed with that specific form of SCID. But SCID is diagnosed in maybe 1 to 58,000 currently. It's pretty much a lack of an immune system. You're subject to any type of virus, bacterial infection. Common cold, it could potentially kill you. Several children, if they're not diagnosed within the first 6 months, they die, by the time they're 2. So here as a parent, what do? We go to Google. You read all these things, what do? You freak out. You think, it's the end of the world, really, when you're reading these things. And Google, it brings up, sorry, I skipped that one. See, I'm not too good at this. The Bubble Boy. Everyone knows David Vedder. And as you're looking at that, the reality is you see a poor child in a hamster cage. That's what it is. So as a parent, you think, how will my child live in that? 12 years, he was in that bubble. And 12 years without the touch of his mother, without the touch of any human being. And we all know, you want to hold somebody's hand, you want to hug them. Why? It feels great. You love somebody, that's how you show your affection. So again, I apologize. I'm talking about my kid again. And again, this isn't just David suffering. This is David's mom having to leave him at the hospital. This is David's sister not being able to interact with her brother. It's not just David. Yes, it's a horrible situation for David, but there wasn't a day that anyone in his family didn't suffer as well. So it came to our diagnosis, and when I say our diagnosis, I mean my family. Sorry, this. Okay, getting it together, here we go. So for 3 years, we struggled to actually get pregnant. And we finally got pregnant from twins, and I was ecstatic and wanted to vomit at the same time, because you're thinking 2 kids. 2 kids. I was on bed rest the whole time, so that, I guess, got me prepared for the seclusion we were going to be living in. But when the girls were born, They were just plump and perfect little twins, but something was wrong with one of them. I didn't know why, and they said, oh, you're postpartum, you're just stressed out. I said, no, I have 2 children. I would be a horrible mother if I was worried about one and not the other. I'm worried about her. Well, long and behold, her CBC came up that she had a very low white blood cell count. And she was admitted to the hospital, and 2 times she had an inconclusive results with the newborn screening, which by the good grace of God, they just started doing in California in 2010, so they were able to pick it up on Evangelina. 5 weeks. I have a 5-week-old baby. I get a phone call, and they tell me the results are in, and you're in for the long haul. Those were the actual words that I got. At that time, those words enraged me, stressed me out, made me just, who calls and says that to someone? But the reality was, we were in for the long haul. It was an honest answer that I got about my daughter, which everyone in here, work on that if you become a doctor. So we got the diagnosis. She's admitted into CHOC, and we come down to the roller coaster ride. You have the total stress and disaster of, will I be burying my child? Will I have a twin and remember every day that her sister's not with her? What did you do wrong? What did I do wrong? Did I eat something when I was pregnant? Did I treat someone bad in my lifetime? What did I do wrong? And then you finally realize it's not about that anymore. What am I going to do to save my child? So we started her on her IVIG treatment, which is basically all of you giving plasma and pulling in all your antibodies to help her fight and survive. And that is the IVIG treatment. They gave her an enzyme replacement, which is basically giving her that ADA gene that she was missing so that she could at least have some lymphocytes in her body. Then we thought, okay, the unicorn's going to save us. Her sister's going to be a match. It's going to be an insane story. That didn't happen. So now what? What do? We have 2 options. There's a bone marrow transplant, and then there's this gene therapy trial, which the word trial just makes you ill. It does. Trial, it's not something that puts the warm fuzzies in you. Neither does a bone marrow transplant, but you think, okay, they've had decades of doing this to people. Well, now we have to find a donor. We don't have a related match. Now there's graft versus host disease. Her body can start, attacking itself. And we finally realize, okay, well, if we do a bone marrow transplant, we can't do the gene therapy. And then you look at the gene therapy, and what is the first thing to tell you? Experimental. Okay, I have a child and I have to give her up for an experiment. So, 17 people have done this experiment so far. Everything's been going fine. They're using her own stem cells. At least the GVH is out of the picture. And again, it's an experiment. Oh my God, it's an experiment. If the experiment doesn't work, she used her own stem cells, we go to bone marrow transplant. So, trying to be a scientist when you're not, and trying to do all this research when, let's face it, I saw half your posters and I was like, please bring it down for me, people. This is not in English for me. Amazing, by the way. Very impressive. So our decision, we actually had 3 potential matches for Evangelina. Non-related matches, obviously. And there was one spot in Dr. Cohn's trial. So we had this man give us a call, talk to us for about an hour and a half about his trial. Never once not saying, I'm experimenting on your child. Never once not being honest, saying, yes, there's always a risk. And again, not ever once not saying, I am experimenting on your child. That honesty meant the world to me. He also told me, I've done it for 17 other people. Would you like to speak to them? So I had these 17 brave parents that came before me. So I'm not this person who, or we, my husband and I, are not these people that just all of a sudden said, you know what, yes, let's go forward with this. No, we had 17 brave parents that said yes first. That made it easier. And we wanted to keep that together. So we went forward with the gene therapy trial. And with that, obviously, you pretty much all know the gene therapy process. They used the mouse vector with Evangelina. They are now using an HIV vector to deliver it, and it's having even more amazing results. And it's, they put it in, mix it up, let it clone, and send it on its way. That's pretty much what it was. It was the simplest process I could ever imagine, yet so complicated and amazing and miraculous. So our process, not the gene therapy process, our process, getting into a hospital with your daughter and having to explain to staff, no, she needs isolation. No, you need to wear a gown. No, you need to clean your hands. No, this room isn't cleaned yet. No, unless she's covered, we're not even going to the operating room. And then your little nugget finally has a bone marrow aspiration, a little port placed, a blood transfusion, and then 5 days later, she starts her chemotherapy. Mind you, this was just a little 8-pound thing. She was gestationally 2 months. And then we have our life day. There's Dr. Cohn. It's day 7. Mind you, all the days were one day to me. And they come out with this syringe of just clear liquid. And you're thinking, where's the big ta-da here? No, it's just this. And they infuse it into her, 5 minutes, and poof, transplant complete. I said, that's it? Well, that's it. Now let's hope they start cloning and doing what they're supposed to do like they did in the lab. So our life in the hospital. One, I had to be away from had to be away from her sister, but she was in good hands with my sister. And we did the night shift with Dad and the weekends off with Dad, and we rotated, and that was for 6 weeks, and we, literally just trying to get out of the hospital for 6 hours of sleep, getting dragged by my mother. No Christmas, no New Year's with with my Annabella, but I was there with Evangelina. But right before Christmas, Dr. Cohn came in and he said, it's working. He's like, it's cloning, it's proliferating, she's doing great. It worked. It's going to take time, but it worked. It's the best news I've had in my life. It's up there with the birth of my children, but I would have to say, hands down, best day of my life. So we were there for 6 weeks, and from there we just, had Mama and Papa and everyone there to visit. But then it came down to the living in isolation, and it had been for a while. We didn't have visitors. I couldn't show off my children, because that's what you want to do. And my kids were extra cute, so I really wanted to do it. But I guess every mother says that. No, but they really were. So we had lots of outdoor visits and lots of kisses on windows, and no gift came into the house unless it was taken out of a box and sterilized, and nobody came into the house unless they came with clean clothes and changing their masks every 20 minutes, and lots of hand washing and sanitizer, and no cell phones were allowed in my house unless I got to clean them with Clorox. If someone went on vacation, they didn't come over for 72 hours. I wanted to make sure they didn't get sick. If they were around someone who even have a sniffle, they're not coming into my house without 72 hours. And there was only a handful of, I think it's 7 people that came in to see my children. They were in complete isolation for 2 years. We were in complete isolation for 2 years. We made a track in our house to drag them in their rockers so that we could make sure at least they had some fun, so that we had some fun. It was rough. You would get those calls of, on FaceTime, hey, Merry Christmas, hey, Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Easter, and you're thinking, I wish I was there. But you do what you do to keep your child safe. So with that, we had some milestones with Evangelina. As you are well aware of, we lived CBC, white blood cell count to white blood cell count, IgG level to IgG level, holding our breath every 2 weeks to see, is it going up? Is it going up? When are we going to be able to get out with this kid? When can we show off our beautiful children? When can our children come outside? It was a very stressful time. We had a slight issue with her port, so she had to have surgery, again, to replace that port. And at 9 months, we got to go outside. It was a big day. They got to actually touch leaves and do everything, and Mom got to walk right behind them, cleaning their hands every 2 seconds. We were worried Evangelina wasn't going to have teeth. That's one of the things with SCID, that they usually have an issue with possibly not having teeth. We got a tooth at 15 months. It was a celebration. We thought, one less thing. At 18 months, I kissed my daughter. A lot. Masks were gone, and I got to kiss my daughter. At the age of 2, they told me she was cured. And as a mother with a sick child, cured is a strong word, a very strong word. I love the word, but to this day, it's still hard to believe. And I'm sure it's hard to believe for a lot of people out there. But she's cured. We had a coming out party on their 2nd birthday. They got a virus, so that was cool. That was really exciting. And they started preschool around 3.5, which was, God, that was just really gross. You just go in those classrooms and you're like, oh my God. But they started preschool, and it's been pretty amazing. And we count our blessings every day. This mother, David Vedder's mom, she had to bury her son at the age of 12 after a bone marrow transplant that would have worked, but he contracted Epsteins Bar, I believe, which they learned a lot from. But it's got to really test the stem cells in the bone marrow before transplant. But I had what she didn't have, and that was time on my hands. So if you don't succeed, if you're not getting where you want to in your research, it's gonna happen. But we need time. You need time. And I never take for granted the fact that I didn't have to do that with my child. So this is us now. I told you they were cute. I wasn't lying. So we are getting out. We are living a normal life. Evangelina is just, she knows nothing of what she's been through. I am not wanting her to know about what she's been through. I'm sure one day she'll Google her name. But she's just a normal, happy, healthy little girl with what we call her unicorn blood. And this is Dr. Cohn's favorite picture. There's a little irony in that, obviously. And no matter the disease, cancer, diabetes, SCID, a child shouldn't be maintained. A child should be living that. Anyone should be living that. My mom, your children. And it's not a matter of when, because we got this diagnosis and this isn't supposed to happen to me. This is supposed to happen to somebody else. And it's selfish to think that way, but that's what we think. We don't think until it happens to us that, wow, this isn't just a movie. This isn't just something you see on social media. This is real. I had a child born with no immune system, no protection. And now I have a daughter who is a genetically modified superhero. That is what she is. And I couldn't give Evie the life that as a mother I wanted to give her. I didn't give her that life. And I want you to know that. Dr. Cohn gave her that life. She gave my family a life, because without my daughter being healthy, there would be no life. You don't live when you have a child who's ill. You don't live when your granddaughter is sick, when your sister's kid is sick, when your cousin is sick. That's not a life. You're just going through the motions. And the reality of it is that with that health comes freedom, the freedom that David didn't have, the freedom that David's family didn't have. And I just want you all to keep doing what you're doing and keep handing out those miracles, because that's what you're doing. So thank you. Keep doing that hard work. And it's, like Amanda said, it may get denied, it may not succeed the first time, but you guys, it works. It works, and I thank you very much. So if anyone has any questions, this crying mother can answer. Thank you.